There is a tiny moth, and all it is doing is going around my microphone. Fuck off. Just fuck off. I can't even swat at it because I will punch my microphone. Fuck off. Right, it's gone. Sorry. No, it's back. Get the fuck. What are you doing? This is the worst audio anybody's ever recorded. Get away from me. Right, it's gone, I think. Jeez, I'm so sorry. There's two of them. Go. This is, oh my god, the window's even closed because of the noise outside, and yet there's still two little shitters. Fuck off. I think they've gone, she says optimistically. Sorry about that. Oh, heavens to Betsy. Okay, I'm ready.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. I have a dream. One day, this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
The world will little note no longer remember what we say, but it can never forget what they did.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Hello and welcome to Eccentric Earth, the podcast where I, your host Amy Walker, delve into stories from across history with a guest who has no idea what the topic's going to be. Joining me this week is Stacey Taylor.
Hello, it's me. That was a very reserved hello, given the fact that I'm like an absolute gobby nonsense person, but oh well. It's hot and I'm tired.
Well, you were just saying this is your first podcast since a 24-hour podcast, so I can forgive a little quiet. I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. Hello. I
mean, I'm in that sort of place now where I'm definitely like, no, I definitely want to keep podcasting, but I really want to keep my work at a minimum. So it's like I'll just go on everyone else's shows, so I don't have to really prep or edit. I just appear and I'm like, hi guys, here's me talking, and then I leave again. So that's my main game plan for the moment. Like just talk at people.
This is the perfect place for you then. You just come in, listen to a story, and talk at us. That's what the audience love.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Hopefully I won't anger any more people.
Oh no, have you been pissing off the internet? I love pissing off the internet. It's my favourite thing to do.
A little bit. And this is something I've talked about a few times, and I'm sure the listeners are getting sick of hearing this, but it makes me laugh. Our second episode we did was about a Canadian war hero called Leo Major, who is amazing. I'm getting this out front straight away in case people accuse me of being a dick again. No, I thoroughly think this guy is amazing. The stuff he did is phenomenal. But when you listen to the story, it's so over the top and unbelievable. You can't help but laugh and find some humour in it.
Yeah.
And the guest I had on, like every guest, has no idea what the topic's going to be. So he's hearing this crazy stuff and laughing about it, making jokes. And we've managed to anger the whole of Canada.
Canada doesn't get angry.
Oh, they do. Would you like to hear an example of one of the comments from the non-angry Canadians?
I do a little bit because, God, I love an unnecessarily angry person. Go on.
Okay, let me bring these up for us.
People are a trash fire.
What a massive jerk making fun of a hero.
Oh.
This is very disrespectful to Leo Major. Awful comments. And the favourite one we've got is, you, Dave Bond, are a cunt.
I mean, he is, but that's not the point. Sorry, Dave. I love you, really. Oh, some people need to learn to take a joke, though, don't they?
Yeah, it's like the poor guy. He didn't know what he was getting in for. It was his first time on the show. He had no idea what the story is. He found a guy funny, and now an entire nation hates him.
And he never returned to Eccentric.
Oh, no, he has been back.
And he's still a cunt. Oh, what? Oh, dear. Good start to an episode, guys. I like it.
So as long as you don't have people calling you a cunt, you're doing good by our standards.
I think I talked about this on the live show, but I actually don't mind when people call me a cunt, because I'm like, okay, cunts are kind of great, actually. Like, I have a bigger problem when people call me things that equate to being stupid, because even though I am a little bit stupid, it's just a bit more offensive to me. Maybe it hits closer to home, because I don't know. But, like, my husband called me a cretin once, and I was like, Richard, how dare you? And I got properly on my high horse about it. And he was like, you'd stop being a div. I'm like, oh. I love the word div.
You got to give him points for bringing back cretin, though. I've not heard that in decades.
We are a family that use like the most absolutely oldie school. Like, people at work think it's hilarious that I use the word splendid so much, or jolly good. Like, people will email me and be like, hey, I've done this for you, and I'm like, oh, splendid, thanks very much. And they're like, ugh, what year do you live in? I'm like, I'm just bringing back fancy words. I like them, all right. Scallywag, it's the good word to say. Nincompoop, also fun. Like, come on, guys, it's fun.
Yeah, my family uses pillock a lot.
I do like pillock. My granddad says wazzock a lot. He calls everyone a wazzock. What a wazzock? He's watching the football. Ah, what a wazzock. I think some of the oldie words are the bestie words, I personally think. But no one cares what I think about words.
Well, shall we get into this fun, exciting story I've got for you then?
Go on, then. I'm always a bit... I know this is only my second episode, but I'm always a bit nervous when you say that, because I'm like, what if she starts talking about something and I am not interested?
That is my biggest fear, is having a guest on who's just silent throughout, or is like, I don't like this, or just, I know this story, I've got nothing to say about it. It's, oh, God.
Well, you're in no danger of me knowing this story, because I don't retain facts. I will freely admit that I don't remember what we talked about in the episode I was on before. Even though I know I had a good time and I know that it was an awesome... I just remember it being a guy who, like, somebody shot his button off, maybe. That's the part that I remember.
That was a good detail to remember.
I thought so. I was really hung up on the logistics of that.
It is pretty mind-blowing in the sense of, well, how?
Yeah, how do you shoot someone's button off their shirt that they're wearing and they're not dead? Like, how is that? Anyway, that's past Stacey and Amy.
Yeah, if anyone wants to hear Stacey's mind get blown with that, go back and listen to episode 11.
Yay!
A quick message to our listeners from our friend and guest Holly Rose about the Cosplay Journal, a coffee table magazine focusing on the diversity and craft of cosplay. Released on the 11th of June, the Cosplay Journal wants to show that not only can anyone be involved in cosplay, but that everyone is capable of learning new skills, creating amazing things, and bringing joy into their own and other people's lives through the art of costume making. The first issue features craft focus articles on sewing, armour building and makeup, as well as interviews with some incredible cosplayers who have taken their own paths with their hobby, some becoming professionals, some simply being the perfectionist amateur. They ask, are cosplay guests worth it in their opinion piece, and give readers a look into the everyday lives of cosplayers to show you the hard work that goes into these wonderful creations. All of this is accompanied by images of cosplayers from around the UK, showcasing the amazing skills and artistry from the cosplay community. So make sure that you head over to Amazon to pre-order your copy of the Cosplay Journal to ensure that you don't miss out.
Audie Murphy was the 7th of 12 children born to Emmett Murphy and his wife Josie.
Already, that's too many children. I was actually talking the other day about my great nan on my granddad's side, which is like my mum's dad, just to clarify that, because I realised saying my granddad's side didn't really help anyone. When she passed away a couple of years ago, at her funeral, we found out that she had something like 96 direct descendants, because she had something like 9 kids, and all of those kids had at least 3 kids, and those 3 kids all had 2 kids.
Oh my God.
I was like, holy cow. That's a lot of baby making.
I think it's a big sign of when, like, television really kicked in, how grandparents had 9 kids, and then the next generation was like, nah, two's fine, 3's fine.
2's enough. 2 and 3's enough. 2 or 3. My nan and granddad kept saying they were going to carry on until they had a boy, and I said to my nan, I bet you're glad that my uncle was like the 4th one. She was like, yes. God, imagine having 9 children. I don't want to. It sounds awful.
Well, this family did 3 better with 12.
Madness. Absolute madness.
And Audie was child number 7, born in 1925. The Murphys were sharecroppers of Irish descent, and he grew up in Texas around Farmersville, Greenville, and Celeste, where he attended elementary school.
Farmersville is a real place.
It is.
That legitimately sounds like a Facebook game. I just sorted my crops out, guys. Don't mind me.
No, it's a real place, Farmersville, Texas. Originated in 1849. So it's been around for a good long while.
Yeah, way pre-Facebook. I kind of like the idea that it might have actually been a Facebook game, and then someone in America was just like, do you know what? I'll have that. Just took the title. That'd actually be brilliant. And a pretty sound indictment of what our world is currently like.
His father was reported to be something of a useless father, oftentimes being unemployed and unable to provide food for his family. Because of this, Murphy helped feed his mother and siblings by hunting rabbits and other small animals around their property.
Aww.
His father drifted in and out of the family's life and eventually deserted them in 1940. Murphy dropped out of school in 5th grade and got a job picking cotton for $1 a day, which was the equivalent of $18 in today's currency, to help support his family. He also became skilled with a rifle and hunted small game to help feed them. Unfortunately, his mother died of pneumonia in 1941, just a year after his father left.
That's real bad timing.
Yeah, he is only 25, 35, 16.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's not good.
No, and he's essentially... I looked into... I couldn't find out if he had older brothers, but from the sounds of things, I think he was the first boy, so he's taken a lot of the responsibilities of looking after everyone.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah.
Like, I can barely take care of myself now, and I'm a nearly 33-year-old woman. And I don't have, 11 other people relying on me for their, health and well-being.
Yeah, especially when you can't just pop down the shops and get... You have to go out and actually hunt animals to feed them.
I'd be the world's worst hunter, because I'd be like, oh, look at that bunny, and then I'd pick it up and cuddle it. People would be like, Stacey, you're supposed to make a dinner out of that. I'm like, oh, but look at his little face, and then cry.
I know we're all starving, but we now have another mouth to feed. He's a bunny.
Look at his little face.
As someone with a bunny who lives in her house, yeah, they're too adorable. You would look at the face and just melt. Yeah. I'm one of these people who, I don't consider myself to be a fussy eater, but I just cannot bring myself to eat rabbit knowingly. I think I've eaten it once because my hubby was like, hey, try this stew. And I was like, ooh, that's good, what's that? And then I felt real bad about it later. But I know it's really hypocritical because I do just lamb is one of my favourite meals, and lambs are adorable too. But there's just something about bunnies and their little twitchy noses and their cute little faces. I can't handle it. I will send you lots of bunny pictures later.
Yay!
The loss of his mother would stay with Murphy throughout his life. Later in life, he would state, "She died when I was 16. She had the most beautiful hair I'd ever seen. It reached almost to the floor. She rarely talked and always seemed to be searching for something. What it was, I don't know. We didn't discuss our feelings, but when she passed away, she took something of me with her. It seems that I've been searching for it ever since." I feel really bad now because it's just very quiet. Oh,
I mean, what do you have to say about that? That's
The story gets better.
Okay, good, because I didn't want to cry today. It's been a few days since my last cry. I'd like to keep it that way.
Murphy had always wanted to be a soldier, and after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, he tried to enlist. But the Army, Navy, and the Marine Corps all turned him down for being underweight and underage.
Is this a story of the real-life Captain America?
Yes. No, I'm not joking. This guy is Captain America.
Oh, that's amazing. Because as soon as you said they turned him away, he's underweight, I was like, oh, it's Steve Rogers.
You wait until you find out what else this guy's done. Yeah, this guy is essentially the closest the real world will get to Steve Rogers.
Awesome. I love Captain America. It's great.
After his sister provided an affidavit that falsified his birth date by a year, he was accepted by the US Army on the 30th of June 1942. After basic training at Camp Walters, he was sent to Fort Meade for advanced infantry training. During basic training, he earned the marksman badge with a rifle component bar and an expert badge with bayonet component bar. Murphy was shipped to Casablanca in Morocco on the 20th of February 1943. He was assigned to the 3rd Infantry Division, which trained under the command of Major General Lucien Truscott.
That's a good name. I like it.
It is. Lucien. You don't get enough of them anymore.
No, you don't.
He participated as a platoon messenger with his division in Algeria in rigorous training for the Allied assault landings on Sicily. During this time, he was promoted to Private First Class on the 7th of May and Corporal on the 15th of July. When the 3rd Infantry landed at Licata, Sicily on the 10th of July, Murphy was a division runner. On a scouting patrol, he killed 2 fleeing Italian officers near Canicana... Oh, bloody hell. every episode. Near Canicati. Sidelined with illness for a week when Company B arrived in Palermo on the 20th of July, he rejoined them when he was assigned to a hillside location protecting a machine gun emplacement, while the rest of the 3rd Infantry Division fought at San Fratello en route to the Allied capture of the transit port at Messina. Murphy participated in the September 1943 mainland Salerno landing. While on a scouting party along the Volturno River, he and 2 other soldiers were ambushed. German machine gun fire killed 1 soldier. Murphy and the other survivors responded by killing 5 Germans with hand grenades and machine gun fire.
War is terrifying, guys. Like,
yeah.
At the start of this article, when you were like, "Oh, he really wanted to become a soldier," I'm like, "Why? Why is that what you were thinking of doing with your life?" Like, I would want to do the opposite of that. Like, whatever the opposite of soldier is exactly what I want to be.
Yeah.
Like, book reading person, or person who stays at home and like tests Hotel Chocolat chocolates. That's what I want to do with my life.
If you're listening, Hotel Chocolat, give her a call. Drop her a message on Facebook or Twitter.
I would actually legit die if they sent me free things. I'd be like, "Oh my god, am I in heaven?" Every year on our anniversary, me and the hubby get Hotel Chocolat chockies and crack open some bubbly and watch a movie. And this year I bought some mango smoothie ones. And guys, honestly, oh, me babby, they're so good. Oh, they're so good. Anyway, this isn't Stacey's chocolate dribbling hour.
While taking part in the October Allied assault on the Volturno line near Mignano, he and his company repelled an attack by 7 German soldiers, killing 3 and taking 4 prisoner. Murphy was then promoted to sergeant on the 13th of December. In January 1944, Murphy was promoted to staff sergeant. Unfortunately, he was hospitalised in Naples with malaria on the 21st of January and was unable to participate in the initial landings.
That's so grim. So grim. And also, promotions in the midst of a war, is that usually because the one above you has died? Is that how it works, or is it just like you've done a good job here, mate? You just be a sergeant, why don't you? Because I can't imagine that you're keeping a very good track of how many sergeants and things you've got, because it's war and it's frantic and it's terrifying. So I feel like it wouldn't be like, oh, a spot's become open. But also spots would definitely be becoming open, I would assume. Ugh.
Yeah, I imagine the people above you dying is definitely a major factor in this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you did have to sort of earn it as well. So he is doing really well for himself at this stage, because it's only 2-3 years he's been in there, and he's jumping up the ranks quite quick.
Imagine trying to celebrate that promotion though. You're like, yes, I'm a sergeant. Oh no, Billy. Oh. I don't know why the name Billy popped into my head. I imagine there was probably not a Sergeant Billy, but actually maybe there was, I don't know.
I'm sure I can find one for you if you give me enough time. He returned to his unit on the 29th of January and participated in the First Battle of Cisterna and was made a platoon sergeant in Company B following the battle. So yeah, the promotion came straight after the battle, so it's possible he was filling a slot there.
Yeah.
He returned with the 3rd Division to Anzio, where they remained for months. Taking shelter from the weather in an abandoned farmhouse on the 2nd of March, Murphy and his platoon killed the crew of a passing German tank. He then crawled out alone, close enough to destroy the tank with rifle grenades, for which he received the Bronze Star.
What? Okay, here's the thing, right? I don't know if you're aware of this upcoming movie, which is essentially The Rock versus a skyscraper.
Versus a sky... What, he fights a skyscraper?
Like, that's how the trailer makes it out. I mean, I think what actually happens is some bad guys take some hostages at the top of a skyscraper, and then it's just like The Rock trying to get to the top, but oh no, action shenanigans.
So it's more The Rock does Die Hard rather than this building killed my brother, I'm gonna get it, kind of.
Well, kind of, but if you go and watch the trailer, there's very much like a sense of him attacking the building itself an awful lot. It's quite funny. But like, I can't imagine what would go through your mind where you'd look at a tank and think, I could take that.
Yeah, it's not even like, buildings are quite stationary and unthreatening. Tanks are designed to kill and destroy. It's
and they're filled with people who want you dead. Like, you know, I mean, I'm assuming this building is in skyscraper also, but you know, like you say, there's not whacking great cannons and shit coming off the skyscraper. So, terrifying.
Murphy continued to make scouting patrols to take German prisoners before being hospitalised for a week on the 13th of March with a second bout of malaria. 61 infantry officers and enlisted men of Company B, including Murphy, were awarded the Combat Infantryman Badge on the 8th of May. Murphy was also awarded a bronze oak leaf cluster for his Bronze Star. American forces liberated Rome on the 4th of June, and Murphy remained in Rome with his platoon throughout July. During the first wave of the Allied invasion of southern France, Murphy received a Distinguished Service Cross for action taken on the 15th of August. After landing on Yellow Beach, Murphy's platoon was making its way through a vineyard when the men were attacked by German soldiers. He retrieved a machine gun that had been detached from the squad and returned fire at the German soldiers, killing 2 and wounding 1. 2 Germans exited a house about 100 yards away and appeared to surrender. When Murphy's best friend responded, they shot and killed him. Murphy then advanced alone on the house under fire with the machine gun. He killed 6, wounded 2, and took 11 prisoners single-handedly.
What? How does one person take 11 prisoners? Is it just because those 11 people were like, that is a machine gun? I don't fancy my chances.
Probably. Also the fact that I imagine he's just like Terminator walking directly at them, like ignoring every bullet that's passing him, and that would be really disconcerting.
That is very true. That whole action movie thing of like somebody just advancing on like a crowd of people just with like 1 or 2 guns, just like, yeah. I'm like, if I saw that, I would legit be like, do you know what? I think being an evil henchman might not be the calling for me. I think I'm just gonna
I'm gonna lay down and pretend I've been shot.
Yeah, that is probably exactly what I'd do. I'd be like, oh no, is that Arnold Schwarzenegger? And just like drop immediately to the ground. Hope no one notices. And also hope nothing explodes nearby and sets me on fire or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't last in an action scenario. It's like I've always said, if I was Arnie in the first Predator film, I wouldn't have took it on at the end. I'd have covered myself in mud and like slowly crawled out of the jungle crying to myself the whole way.
Just slithered away.
Yeah. The Predator's looking for me, and all I can hear is as I'm just going through the bushes.
It's like that scene in Rick and Morty where all the aliens are like taking off and everybody's like rioting, and Jerry just like crawls home like whimpering to himself. When he gets back, Beth's like, "What? How did you get back home?" And he was like, "I just started crawling and I didn't stop."
Yeah, I think that would be me.
Yeah, I'd be terrible in an action movie just because I can't run anywhere without dying. Action movies aren't made for fat lasses. I can't even run for a bus.
Murphy was with the 1st Battalion of the 15th Infantry Regiment during the 27th to 28th of August offensive at Montélimar that secured the area from the Germans. Along with the other soldiers who took part in the action, he received the Presidential Unit Citation. Murphy's first Purple Heart was for a heel wound received in a mortar shell blast on the 15th of September 1944 in northeastern France. His first Silver Star came after he killed 4 and wounded 3 at a German machine gun position on the 2nd of October. 3 days later, Murphy crawled alone towards the Germans at Le Maire, carrying an SCR-3536 radio, and directed his men for an hour while the Germans fired directly at him. When his men finally took the hill, 15 Germans had been killed and 35 wounded.
Jeez.
Murphy's actions earned him a bronze oak leaf cluster for his Silver Star. That's just crazy.
That's the thing that's confusing me is the criteria for these different stars and things, because it's like you got, what did you say, like a Purple Heart for getting a heel injury, but he didn't get shit for capturing 11 guys and like single-handedly just like mowing down an entire house full of like, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how they all worked, and before this article I didn't even know you could upgrade medals with like the add-ons he's getting, but it's very interesting and cool with what he's doing. Yeah,
it's kind of awesome.
Like I said, he is Captain America.
Yep, absolutely.
He was awarded a battlefield commission to second lieutenant on the 14th of October, which elevated him to platoon leader. On the 26th of October, the 3rd platoon of Company B was attacked by a German sniper group. Murphy managed to capture 2 snipers before being shot in the hip by another.
Oh.
He returned fire and shot the sniper between the eyes.
Hold on. Hold on. Isn't a sniper's job to be like the mega precise, accurate guy who gets you between the eyes?
Yep.
And that guy got him in the hip.
Yep.
And then Murphy was like, oh, no.
It does feel like the injuries are the wrong way round.
It does a little bit. It does a tiny bit. But that's like extra impressive that he's just like, I'm not having this. Shooting me in the hip. Come here. Just like, what? That's
and
insane.
Again, so many action movies I feel have stolen from this guy, because the whole shooting the sniper back and getting them between the eyes, I've seen that in so many films. And this guy actually did it. It's amazing.
I mean, this is one of those things where you would hear this story and would be like, okay, are you actually just reading the script of an unused like Stallone movie?
At the 3rd General Hospital at Aix-en-Provence, I'm sure I butchered that pronunciation, I'm sorry, France. The removal of gangrene from the wound caused partial loss of hip muscle and kept him out of combat until January.
Oh,
Murphy received his first bronze oak leaf cluster for his Purple Heart for this injury.
Okay, it seems weird that they're now rewarding injuries.
Yeah, I'm going to check this before I just say it, but I'm pretty sure the Purple Heart is awarded specifically for injuries received in combat.
I mean, I can sort of understand it, because it's like, you know, there's going to be very few people who don't get injured that you could just go giving round medals to. But also, like, if somebody took a bullet in service of their country, like, fair play, they deserve some sort of recognition. But it seems weird that you'd be, like, specifically saying to somebody, I'm going to take that Purple Heart and I'm going to give you this bronze cluster of whatever because your hip got gross and we had to, like, dig out some sneeze from it. Like, oh, so grim.
Yeah, I've just checked it. The Purple Heart is the United States military decoration awarded to those wounded or killed whilst in service.
Wow.
So, yeah, I imagine a lot of those get given out, but like you said, if you're getting one, you probably definitely earned it.
Yeah, 100%. It just still seems weird, doesn't it? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like I entirely understand and appreciate the sentiment, but it just sounds so off to my ear that you'd be like, here, have a medal in replacement for that hip you now pretty much no longer have. Like, ugh.
The Colmar pocket had been held by German troops since November 1944. On the 14th of January 1945, Murphy rejoined his platoon, which had been moved to the Colmar area in December. He moved with the 3rd Division on the 24th of January to the town of Holtwitzer, where they faced a strong German counterattack. He was wounded in both legs, for which he received a 2nd bronze oak leaf cluster for his Purple Heart. As the company awaited reinforcements on the 26th of January, he was made the commander of Company B. The Germans scored a direct hit on an M10 tank destroyer, setting it alight, forcing the crew to abandon it. Murphy ordered his men to retreat to positions in the wood, remaining alone at his post, shooting his M1 carbine and directing artillery fire via his field radio while the Germans took fire on his position. Murphy then mounted the abandoned burning tank and began firing its 50 caliber machine gun at advancing Germans, killing a squad crawling through a ditch towards him. Murphy stood on top of the tank, which was on fire, for an hour whilst he shot German soldiers that advanced upon him, killing or wounding 50 men.
How in the world? Also, why in the world? Like, it's... I don't know whether it's like a whole extra level of like selflessness or whether it's just like heat of the moment, you know, reactions. But I can't envision a time whenever I see anything that's on fire and think, I'm going to climb on that. I'm just going to climb on it. Like what a guy. Like, that's absolutely doolally. Yeah. Also brilliant. Also, the visuals that are happening in my brain right now are so epic.
Oh yeah, it would have looked amazing.
There should absolutely be a movie about this guy.
The problem is no one would believe it.
That is true. That is very true.
They'd look at it and go, this is too over the top.
Yeah, it'd be a case of like everybody getting cross at the stormtroopers again. It's like, how are you missing that one guy? There's 1,000 of you. It's like, oh, he's just too good.
He sustained a leg wound during this action and stopped killing Germans only after he ran out of ammunition. He sustained a leg wound during this action and stopped killing Germans only after he ran out of ammunition.
Like, what? So his men just like... Now, I understand he's the commanding officer, so you sort of have to go by what he says. But I would feel so bad just like basically watching my boss just like riding atop a flaming tank, and I'm just there in the bushes like, shh, guys, don't let anyone know that we're here.
Yeah, it would. You'd feel kind of like we should be out there, but at the same time, I feel like it's also, holy shit, we need to watch this. This is amazing. And also, if we go out there, we will die. He apparently can't, but we will.
This guy is an immortal, brilliant man. Like, I can't imagine what it must be like to have been watching that, like, really happen.
There's got to be thousands of these kind of amazing feats during the war, but I can't get my head around how you would experience one of these, and it seems too over the top and otherworldly to happen. Yeah.
I also think, though, that there's probably an element of, like, absolutely shitting a brick about you at the time, which means you probably wouldn't really appreciate it as much as we would from the outside going, look at him go! Like...
For his actions that day, he was awarded the Medal of Honor.
Good.
The 3rd Infantry Division was awarded the Presidential Unit Citation for its actions at the Colmar Pocket, giving Murphy a bronze oak leaf cluster for the emblem. On the 16th of February, Murphy was promoted to First Lieutenant and was awarded the Legion of Merit for his services from the 22nd of January 1944 to the 18th of February 1945. He was then moved from the front lines to regimental headquarters and made a liaison officer. The United States additionally honoured Murphy's war contributions with the American Campaign Medal, the European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal with Arrowhead device and 9 campaign stars, the World War II Victory Medal, and the Army Occupation Medal with Germany clasp.
That's a lot of medals.
It is. It is not all of them, though. France recognised his service with the French Legion of Honour, grade of Chevalier, the French Croix de Guerre with Silver Star, the French Croix de Guerre with Palm, the French Liberation Medal, and the French Fourragère in Colours of the Croix de Guerre, which was authorised for all members of the 3rd Infantry Division. Belgium awarded Murphy the Belgian Croix de Guerre with the 1940 Palm. Brigadier General Ralph B. Lovett and Lieutenant Colonel Halle Edson recommended Murphy for the Medal of Honor. Near Salzburg in Austria on the 2nd of June 1945, Lieutenant General A.M. Patch presented Murphy with the Medal of Honor and Legion of Merit for his actions. When asked after the war why he had seized the machine gun and taken on an entire company of German infantry, he replied, "They were killing my friends."
That is a good reason. That is a very good reason.
Murphy received every US military combat award for valor available from the US Army for his World War II service. Inquiries were made through official channels about the prospect of Murphy attending West Point upon his return to the United States, but he never enrolled. According to author Don Graham, Murphy suggested the idea, then dropped it, possibly when he realised the extent of academic preparation needed to pass the entrance exam. Whilst on leave, Murphy received parades, banquets and speeches in his honour, and received a belated Good Conduct Medal on the 21st of August.
I really wish somebody would hold a banquet in my honour. I don't know what I'd get it for, because I am a lazy person. But, if anybody wants to throw a banquet in my honour, I 100% am pro that. 100%. Parade seems a bit much, but a banquet I can definitely do.
Yeah, parade you'd have to travel round on the back of a float. At least banquet you can just stay where you are and it's not too bad.
Just shovel food into my face. That's pretty much. I was pretty much just thinking about just chowing down on some food while everybody's like, "Cool, you're good, you are, Stacey." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, please."
He was discharged with the rank of First Lieutenant at 50% disability on the 21st of September and transferred to the Officers Reserve Corps. His service record stated that during his time in World War II, Murphy had 240 confirmed kills, had been wounded in combat 3 times, and had received 33 awards and medals.
Jeez, that's amazing.
Yeah, he is the most decorated US soldier from World War II.
Imagine, what would have happened if they hadn't fiddled his age and he hadn't actually got into any sort of combat. I wonder what he'd have done with himself, and I also wonder what America would have done without him. Because that's...
Yeah, imagine, I think they'd have had a few more deaths at least.
It's the idea of he's killed 240 people and only 3 people have even landed a shot on him. That's a ratio and a half, isn't it? Crikey.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing that one man can do that. In July 1945, actor and producer James Cagney saw an issue of Life magazine that depicted Murphy as the most decorated soldier and was so impressed that he took Murphy to Hollywood.
Oh.
Cagney and his brother William signed him as a contract player for their production company and gave him training in acting, voice and dance.
This took a turn I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, the second half of this is very different. They never cast Murphy in a movie, and a personal disagreement ended their association in 1947. Murphy later worked with an acting coach, Estelle Harmon, and honed his dictation by reciting dialogue from William Shakespeare. Murphy moved into Terry Hunt's Athletic Club in Hollywood, where he lived until 1948. Hollywood writer David McClure befriended Murphy and collaborated with him on Murphy's 1949 book To Hell and Back. McClure used his connections to get Murphy a $500 bit part in Texas, Brooklyn and Heaven, which was the equivalent of $5,000.
Ooh, that's not too shabby.
No, and for a bit part as well, that's pretty good. In 1946, he had a bit part in the Alan Ladd film Beyond Glory, which was directed by John Farrow. His 1949 film Bad Boy gave him his first leading role. The film's financial backers refused to even finance the film unless Murphy was given the lead. Allied artists put aside their reservations about using an inexperienced actor and gave him the starring role. Universal Studios signed Murphy to a 7-year studio contract at $2,500 a week, which equates to $25,000 in today's currency.
Jiminy Cricket. I would love that, please.
Yeah,
Anyone who's listening.
25 grand a week for 7 years.
I don't even earn that in a year. That's really depressing. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's like, I know he earned it through what he did in the war, but what a bastard.
Yeah,
really
like on the one hand, you're like, yeah, no, he deserves to be cut a break. Like, this is absolutely fine. And then on the other hand, I'm like, oh, what I wouldn't give for 25 grand.
Yeah. Not even a week, just once.
Yeah, just once. That'd do me. That'd absolutely do me.
His first film for Universal was as Billy the Kid in The Kid from Texas in 1950.
He wrapped up that year making Sierra, starring Wanda Hendricks, who by that time had become his wife, and Kansas Raiders, playing outlaw Jesse James. After the 25th of June 1950 commencement of the Korean War, Murphy began a second military career alongside his acting, and was commissioned as a captain in the 36th Infantry Division of the Texas Army National Guard. He drilled new recruits in the summer training camps and granted the Guard permission to use his name and image in recruiting material. So I'm imagining him as actually the Captain America posters now, being like, we need you to sign up.
I was just going to say, like, I was thinking when he said alongside his acting career, I was like, I can't imagine that somebody's just like going off to war and then coming back to the studio and being like, right, what am I up to now? Like, what?
Yeah, unfortunately he's suffered another injury. It's going to do hell with the continuity on the film.
How bad is it? He's lost a leg. Oh no. That's it, close up production.
Although he wanted to join the fighting, the 36th Infantry Division was never sent to Korea. Universal lent him to MGM in 1951 at a salary of $25,000 to play the lead of the youth in The Red Badge of Courage, directed by John Huston.
I need to get, for a person with a pop culture podcast, I need to get better at movies that came out before I was born.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I've not heard of any of these films.
I feel really bad because every film that you're saying, I'm like, nope, not a clue.
The thing is, in this period as well, it was pretty much either war films or westerns.
That is true, and those are my two least favourite genres of movie. So, yeah.
Murphy and Huston worked together again in 1960 on the film The Unforgiven. Over the next 4 years, he would appear in the films The Duel at Silver Creek, Column South, Tumbleweed, and Destry.
Yep, still no.
Yeah. His biggest role would come in 1955, when he played himself in To Hell and Back, the adaptation of his book. Although he was reluctant to play himself, he agreed following studio request. To Hell and Back became the biggest hit in the history of Universal Studios until that time. To help publicise the release of the film, he made guest appearances on several television shows, such as What's My Line, The Toast of the Town, and The Colgate Comedy Hour.
I love these quaint old TV shows.
Yeah. And that is the Colgate, as in the people who make toothpaste.
The toothpaste. That's amazing.
Yeah,
imagine
they had like a variety comedy show on TV.
I really want to see that now. Everybody's just got real toothy grins.
The Colgate Comedy Hour. Starring Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. Presented by the Colgate Palmolive Peat Company, makers of Halo Shampoo, Colgate Dental Cream, Ajax Cleanser, Palmolive Soap. And now, the Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis Show.
Joseph Mankiewicz hired Murphy to play the titular role in the 1958 film The Quiet American. Murphy formed a partnership with Harry Joe Brown to make 3 films, starting with The Guns of Fort Petticoat. Unfortunately, the partnership fell into disagreement over the remaining 2 projects, and Brown filed a lawsuit against Murphy.
Well, that seems unfair.
Yeah, luckily he didn't win. So.
Good.
Murphy was also featured in 3 westerns in 1959. He starred opposite Sandra Dee in The Wild and the Innocent, collaborated as an uncredited co-producer on the black and white Cast Along Shadow, and performed as a hired killer in No Name on the Bullet.
That's a great name for a film.
Some of these old names are brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant.
During the early 1960s, Murphy donated his time and otherwise lent his name and image the 3 episodes of the Big Picture television series produced by the United States Army. He received the 1960 Outstanding Civilian Service Medal for his cooperation in the episode Broken Bridge, which featured his visits to military installations in Germany, Italy, Turkey, and US state of New Mexico to show the military's latest weaponry. Writer Claire Huffaker wrote the 1961 screenplays for Murphy's film 7 Ways from Sundown and Posse from Hell.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Posse from Hell. I like the word posse. I might bring it back.
Willard W. Willingham and his wife Mary Willingham befriended Murphy in his early days of Hollywood and worked with him on a number of projects. Willard was a producer on Murphy's 1961 television series Whispering Smith and co-wrote the screenplay for Battle at Bloody Beach that same year. He collaborated on Bullet for a Bad Man in 1964 and Arizona Raiders in 1965.
Yep, top-notch names.
The Willinghams as a team wrote the screenplay for Gunpoint, as well as the screenplay for Murphy's last starring lead in the western 40 Guns to Apache Pass in 1967.
That one's not quite so catchy.
Murphy also filmed the film Trunk to Cairo in Israel in 1966. By the end of his film career, Murphy had starred in more than 40 feature films.
Hold on. He's had an entire military career and then was in 40 movies, and I've never heard of the guy. What is wrong with my brain?
I'm going to slightly alter that for you as well. He's had the most decorated military career in American history and starred in 40 films, including the biggest film produced by Universal Studios at that point.
Yeah,
it's
I'm going to
amazing.
hang up my podcast credits because I shouldn't be allowed.
To be honest, I'd not heard of this guy a couple of weeks ago either. It's crazy that he's not better known.
Yeah, absolute madness.
Since his military service, Murphy had been plagued with insomnia and bouts of depression, and slept with a loaded pistol under his pillow. A post-service medical examination on the 19th of June 1947 revealed symptoms of headaches, vomiting, and nightmares about the war.
Oh.
His medical records indicated that he took sleeping pills to help prevent nightmares, and during the 1960s, he recognised his dependence on sedatives and locked himself alone in a hotel room for a week and successfully broke his addiction. Post-traumatic stress levels exacerbated his innate moodiness and surfaced in episodes that friends and professional colleagues found alarming. His first wife, Dixie Hendricks, claimed he once held her at gunpoint. She witnessed her husband being guilt-ridden and tearful over newsreel footage of German war orphans.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, this is going downhill again.
It's getting sad again. Can we throw in some more, posses and things?
Murphy briefly found a creative stress outlet in writing poetry after his army discharge. His poem, The Crosses Grow on Anzio, appeared in his book To Hell and Back, though he attributed it to a fictitious character named Kerrigan. Due to stress in their relationship and Murphy holding her at gunpoint, Dixie divorced him in 1951. But 4 days later, he married a former airline stewardess, Pamela Archer, who he would go on to have 2 sons with.
What? 4 days?
Yeah, 4 days.
That's actually stupid impressive. I would be so pissed if I was his ex. I'm like, wow, can you at least wait for the bed to cool, mate? Jesus.
Then again, major movie star as well, so he's got some pull.
True. That is very true.
In an effort to draw attention to the problems of returning Korean and Vietnam War veterans, Murphy spoke out candidly about his own problems with post-traumatic stress. It was known during Murphy's lifetime as battlefield fatigue and shell shock, terminology that dated back to World War I. He called on the government to give increased consideration and study to the emotional impact of combat experiences, and to extend healthcare benefits to war veterans. During this period of his life, he also bred horses at the Audie Murphy Ranch and the Murphy Ranch. His horses raced at the Del Mar racetrack, and he invested large sums of money in the hobby. Murphy's gambling left his finances in a poor state, and in 1968 he stated that he had lost $260,000 in an Algerian oil deal and was dealing with the Internal Revenue Services over unpaid taxes.
Ew.
In spite of his financial difficulties, Murphy refused offers to make money by appearing in commercials for alcohol or cigarettes, mindful of the influence he would have on the youth market. On the 29th of May 1971, Murphy was killed when the private plane in which he was a passenger crashed into Brush Mountain in Virginia, 20 miles west of Roanoke, in conditions of rain, cloud, fog, and zero visibility. The pilot and 4 other passengers were also killed.
Ew.
The aircraft was a twin-engine Aero Commander 680, which is flown by a pilot who had a private pilot license and a reported 8,000 hours of flying time, but who held no instrument rating. The aircraft was recovered on the 31st of May. After her husband's death, Pamela Murphy moved to a small apartment and got a clerk position at the Sepulveda Veterans Administration Hospital in Los Angeles, where she remained employed for 35 years. In 1975, a court awarded Murphy's widow and 2 children $2.5 million in damages because of the accident. On the 7th of June 1971, Murphy was buried with full military honours at Arlington National Cemetery. In attendance were Ambassador to the US and future President George Bush Sr. and Army Chief of Staff William Westmore, along with many of the 3rd Infantry Division.
The more you say, the more embarrassed I am for not knowing this guy.
Don't be, I didn't at all, so... This is the point of the show, finding amazing people who not many people have heard of, so... Murphy's gravesite is in section 46, headstone number 4636611, located across Memorial Drive from the amphitheatre. A special flagstone walkway was later constructed to accommodate the large number of people who visited his grave. It is the cemetery's 2nd most visited gravesite after that of President John F. Kennedy.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The headstones of Medal of Honor recipients buried at Arlington are normally decorated in gold leaf. However, before his death, Murphy previously requested that his stone remain plain and inconspicuous because he wanted to be remembered as an ordinary soldier. His headstone contains the incorrect birth year of 1924 based on the falsified military records. In 1974, a large granite marker was erected just off the Appalachian Trail near the site of his plane crash. Civilian honours were bestowed on Murphy during his lifetime and posthumously, including a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. In 2013, Murphy was honoured by his home state with the Texas Legislative Medal of Honor. Swedish power metal band Sabaton wrote a song in their 2014 studio album Heroes, also entitled To Hell and Back, commemorating and recognising Audie Murphy as the most decorated American veteran of World War II.
I need to hear this song.
Yeah, so that is probably the closest we will ever have to the real Captain America.
Yeah, because I am privileged enough to not have even the slightest fucking clue what being involved in a war is like. So like I find it difficult enough to grasp just the idea of, regular old war. But like when you hear stories like this about guys who like single-handedly take on like 1,000 dudes with, a stick, and you're like, how even, what? It's just, I can't even comprehend it. It's so like ludicrous and amazingly ludicrous. Like, how do you, and the fact that like, I've already admitted that I am a massive wuss, so I would never be anywhere near any sort of recruiting for a war. But like, yeah, just like the idea that you would like believe in something so much that you would literally put your whole life like on the line and go like way above and beyond what anybody would expect of you just to, God, it's insane how, and I don't mean that in a bad way, like I'm not saying it's crackers, like people should get their heads looked at. I mean literally like it's just, I cannot comprehend how people do that. It is actually amazing.
Yeah, like we've had a few episodes that have been about people in wars. The episode on Leo Major, he single-handedly liberated an entire town by causing so much noise that the Germans thought it was an entire army and ran away. And then there was the Harlem Hellfighters, who are the most decorated regiment in World War One, and were basically given the worst equipment and sent to the worst places because they were black. And it's like, how did these people do this? It staggers the mind, and I think unless you have been a soldier in combat yourself, you can't get your head around it, because it seems so unreal. And yeah, we, like in this episode, we laugh and we joke about it because we can't relate to it the way it should, because we are never going to be in that situation.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I just find, like, I have so much respect for people who do that sort of thing, because it's literally not something that would ever cross my mind to even consider, let alone actually, you know, go after and do. And I kind of love this guy, because he also, like, on top of being an absolute badass, then was just like, I'll just be famous then. Like, I'll just be in movies and shit. Like, what? Yeah, it's just... Yeah,
and I love how humble and nice he was as well. Like, he went and spoke out about PTSD and tried to get that recognised, and when he was running out of money, he was like, I'm not going to do certain things because I wouldn't feel right about it. You know, he still had morals and a good heart, and the fact that he was like, no, don't put the gold decoration on my headstone, I'm just a regular soldier, that speaks volumes about the kind of person he is, I think.
Yeah. He sounds like an absolute top dude, which is a massive understatement, but they're the only words I have right now. He seems cool.
Well, if the listeners enjoyed this episode and like listening to you, where can they listen to more of you, and where can they find you on social media?
Ooh, the best place to find me on the social medias is at Stacey's Parlour on Twitter, and that is Stacey with an E before the Y, and Parlour with a U before the R, for anybody who's listening from America, because I do quite often get messages that are like, it took me ages to find you because you don't spell parlour right. I spell it English, mate, so that's where I'm from. That's how we spell it, and it's proper. Anyway, you can also find the show at popcultureparlour.podbean.com, or just by searching Stacey's Pop Culture Parlour in iTunes and Stitcher and all the usual podcatchy places. And I do want to do, I know it's cheeky, but I do want to do a little plug for my fundraiser that I did, the 24-hour show.
It's not cheeky at all, go for it.
Well, the reason being is that you know, I mentioned to you earlier before we started that I had a bit of a miniature breakdown after this one, because I've done it twice before and they both went, you know, I was nervous because I suffer a bit with social anxiety, so talking to like loads of different people over 24 hours and trying to be entertaining is quite stressful. But this one, like literally everything that could have gone wrong technology wise in the lead up to and during and then with the audio afterwards absolutely did go wrong. And I had a bit of a crisis of my brain and had a miniature breakdown. So I would really like to raise as much as humanly possible so that miniature breakdown feels really, really worth it. And so if you'd like to give some dosh, I was fundraising for the British Heart Foundation, partly because I have a heart condition myself, and also because my co-host for the day, Barry Nugent from the Geek Syndicate podcast, he lost his mother and his elder brother to heart disease. So it's a really worthy cause. They do a lot of research into treatment and prevention. They also do a lot of stuff around like providing information for people with heart conditions and things, and also they are lobbying the government to do with education and food labelling and you know, testing and all that sort of stuff. So if you'd like to give us some dosh, even like a pound, I don't care how much you want to give me, every little helps. You can go to justgiving.com/SPCP Live 3. There you go, that's my ramble.
Awesome, and please do go and donate to that. It's a really worthy cause, and it's a really good live podcast as well. So yeah, go support it.
Thank you. I had a right time with it, so.
Oh, bless you.
Oh, it's over now.
Well, if people enjoyed this episode, you can find us on social media as well. Our Twitter is at eccentric_earth. We have a Facebook page at facebook.com/eccentric earth. and we're on Instagram as well. We try and keep these updated with information on when new episodes come out, other work that I've done through other websites like articles and reviews, and we tweet out little history facts that relate to things that happened that day in history. So go give those a follow so that you keep up to date on everything we do. If you want to write in with any suggestions for future episodes or to contact us for any reason, our email address is eccentricearth@outlook.com. And you can find the show on all major podcast providers and on YouTube. So please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you enjoy it, give us a review. Or, like we talked about at the beginning, if you hate us, go to YouTube and give us a review there, because that seems to be where people vent. So any feedback will be greatly received. Thank you for joining us, Stacey. It's been an absolute blast.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm sorry about the moth-pocalypse in the middle.
No, don't. It's my favourite part. I love that. I might try and make that into like a ringtone or something.
Just use that as the advertisement for this episode. I did have a similar problem once on an episode of mine, but it was with a giant spider that I just kept screaming about whilst I was texting my husband to come upstairs and kill it.
Oh, that's understandable.
Yeah, I am an absolute nightmare. I can't cope with bugs at all. That moth's coming back. No.
It heard you talking about him.
It did. It's like, hey, I've got some stuff to plug, and I'm like, fuck off, bro. Thank you for having me, though. It's been really fun.
Genuine pleasure. You'll have to come on again because we all love you, and it's great interacting with you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm getting all like... No.
Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll catch you all next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Into combat where bodies lie piled, hides his emotions, his blood's run